Today what we're going to talk about is the intersection of technology and data through the eyes of Nicole and her team at IAEE. So we deployed a series of services and technology that we developed at Bear to work on the attendee acquisition pathway and move toward a more agile marketing strategy. Nicole's here really to fill in her piece of what it actually feels like to walk through the client's shoes. Okay? So Nicole, give us a little bit of a background in terms of like what the technology stack looked like with IAE for this year, and then also I can talk a little bit about how marrying together some historical data sets from multiple registration vendors oftentimes. Now I have 2 months. Okay. Oftentimes can be a challenge for event organizers.
These are all the different technology platforms that we use. This is our association management system. Feather is what I use for ad retargeting and invites. HireLogic is our community platform, MemberLink, and Informs, which was bought by HireLogic, that's my email marketing and automation system, and then StreamPoint is our registration company. So all of these systems aren't fully integrated back and forth, but they're all pieced together in some way. It's very challenging, but you know, it is what it is. So that's what I'm working with.
And so it's a common thread for a lot of people we talk to that there's valuable pieces of information or valuable pieces of functionality where you hope the information would flow through with each of these technical systems, right? And some of the fundamental issues that oftentimes we see that we'll talk about here as we came through the approach is how do we then take disparate data sets, where maybe there isn't like the world's perfect integration, slam them together so that we can get clean, reliable information. Usually for our clients, I think for IAE means things like we want to be able to get the individual person we're talking about, all their behaviors, and down to one single record. So who's that person of record? Who is that organization of record? And so on the left-hand side here, I'll talk a little bit about what happens on the back end of what we cover from Bear, and then I'm going to let Nicole talk about what her interface is with the service and technology combination that we've developed. So on the back side, we're taking all of this information, regardless of the format it comes in. Not one of our clients has the exact same event or association stack. They're using different AMS systems, different email tools, and of course different registration systems. We slam all that data together, we clean it up, we consolidate it, we do some cool things on the enrichment side. If you want to catch us afterwards, I can talk till the day is long about all that stuff. And then we take everybody's unique individuals that we develop and we put together their behavioral profile. We also do the same thing on the organizational level, and we look at key things like retention, first-timers, people's willingness to travel, how much they're paying. There's over 120 metrics that we put together. And that's a whole bunch of stuff. That's why we keep it on our side. We only filter through to Nicole and her team the KPIs that actually matter, so she's not sitting there looking at a bunch of tables and charts that don't matter. Now I'm going to turn over to Nicole and talk a little bit about, okay, what happens there when we're actually able to turn this on and hook into the registration system for a real-time analysis.
So for me, Joe used the word agile earlier. So every week we get this set of data. It's colorful, which to me is very important. It's sliced and diced in a bunch of different ways. And I can look on a Monday and I can say, all right, where are we down? Are we down in California? Are we, do we have a certain, section of show organizers that haven't registered yet? Who registers early, who registers in the middle, and who registers right into the event? It allows me to target in very different ways. And for me, my personality is I just like to do things at the last minute. It drives some people nuts, but for this, it works really well for me. I'm not saying do that. I'm just saying it works really well for me. So on Monday, I can completely change what I'm doing, but I can, knock it out like that. So for instance, we got a report on a Monday. It said we were down in California, so I shifted my focus, sent an email to only people in California and focused on the cheap flights from the major hubs, and registration shot up. It was awesome. I loved it.
So to give you a sense of what comes with it, so Nicole's interacting with an actual dashboard, that's real-time and online and all of those fancy things in the cloud. And then there's an analyst on our team that's paired with the IAE team, Nicole and her colleagues, who's looking at these areas of opportunity to identify, hey, California, hey, certain event organizers, here's where to target on a week-to-week basis. And then the marketing's deployed the next 6 days, and then we're actually looking at that feedback loop and saying who actually converted, how successful was it, what are next week's opportunities and gaps. And so what we've learned is I haven't met any marketing person that's like, got way too much money this year, too many resources, too much time, too much expertise.
Especially not in the association world.
Exactly. So if it's an exercise in efficiency, we find if we can be more efficient and put you all in a better position to target your audience at the right time, conversions just come naturally from it. And so we'll talk a little bit about the results here. Nicole, if you want to speak to kind of these like pillars or general themes.
So I think one of the biggest values with Bear is that not only were they giving me data that allowed me to change my message week to week, but they were showing me how we compared to other clients. So this is what we've seen other people do. And I'm going to take their advice because they've got, a lot more data that I'm not privy to. So for me, it was very helpful in letting me know that I was on the right track because the data behind the scenes, they took 5 years of attendees' data. So I had that pool of people. So I didn't have to go back to the 35,000 records in our database and start slicing and dicing. I could go straight to the dashboard here, or not here, but you know what I mean. I could go to the dashboard and I could slice and dice how I wanted to pull that data and then shoot out an email. It was awesome. And then that's linked directly to StreamPoint, so it's constantly updating the records. And I mean, it's the first year we used it, so we did our own analysis like we normally do, and it was spot on every time.
So I appreciate that. So part of what we also do is we pride ourselves on having data access. A lot of times we hear folks, this is great, but how do I actually reach my prospects? So one of the panes in the dashboard is a prospect portal. So all of your data is behind them. And then we put our smart filters on it. So if you wanted to look at how many people were within 50 miles of New Orleans, because we're a week out of the show and you want to look at drive-in traffic, that's a little slider. You just got to be able to move the little dial over. And you can hit export and your data comes out. And by the way, it's the clean version of your data. It's not the raw information that came in. So you're getting a better version of it if you want to send an email, make a phone call, or probably a little too late in the game to send a direct mail, but you get my point. The other piece too is when it comes to reliable data reporting, part of the reason that we were spot on is because we match up what we've seen historically with what IAEE has done historically. We don't just come in and say, hey, we're the data people, take it or leave it. So if you're looking at a Monday to Monday reg cycle, we always cut off at midnight on Monday. We mirror that. So when you're looking at historical data, because you want to shoot some of these reports out to the board, to a committee, everything is apples to apples. It's telling the same story. You don't have to re-educate your constituents. So let's just finish up on some of the high points, I think.
Okay.
We pride ourselves on being easy to work with.
They are. Check.
And I think that was something in the beginning that was a little bit of a concern. Because the other thing too is we like to bring the generalized trends from across our audiences because there's no reason that us as event organizers, we shouldn't be sharing those findings and that information. We're not sharing data across clients, but definitely, hey, this type of marketing strategy, the flights thing, now that's in our repository.
I've got a good one. I just thought of it. Bear makes data manageable because it really does. It's too much data, and they hone it down and make it easy to understand and easy to act on. I just copyrighted that.
I appreciate that. And a big one for us is number 5 because we need to make it actionable. If you're just going to look at it and go, hey, that's cool, that's interesting, but we're not going to change the way we market, we always send, the pre-show postcard 18 weeks out to everybody, then it's probably not going to work. So, but if you have a desire to change what you're doing, to become more efficient, to make your job more impactful, I think we have a solution
They
for
did
that.
all of that for me. I don't say that lightly. They did all of that for me.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Nicole. Thank you very much.